There we go. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's just check in. As Alia said, there's something about building spin-out companies by 2026. And let me just check in with you guys because I want to make sure I have this right. So as far as I understand it, the Kazakh government has said that they want to create 5 technoparks so that research can be commercialized, to support commercialization of research in Kazakhstan. And they've asked universities to bid to be part of them or to open them or to run them. And they've asked those technoparks to create companies, spin-outs, which are companies, that earn revenue within 3 years. Have I got that right? That's the first thing. Let's make sure we understand that we're all on the same page and see if I've got that right. Because someone nod or shake or hold their head in despair for this crazy foreigner from London? Or can someone tell me if I've got that right or wrong? Any way you like. Someone say yes or no. Don't leave me hanging.
Might be yes, you know. But personally, me just interesting how to create the spin-off company. I hope to do it. What is your experience in it? So it is independent. Do Kazakh government wants to do it or not? Personally, for me,
Right.
so I
Understand.
want to work for in this area and to create something. We do something already. So do we right or not? That is the question for now.
Right. Got it. Thank you, Talia. So, okay, so then let's hit this. So let's start with a spin-out. Spin-out is a company. It's based on the research in your university. So that's the starting point. So, okay, given that creating a spin-outs across the world happens, but not very often compared to the amount of research, it's therefore a hard thing to do. So I'd like to, if you can, actually, I'm going to ask you to do something. Could you, there you go, grab a pen for me. Grab a pen and a piece of paper. And I'm going to ask you to write down 5 things just on your own. Spend 2 minutes. Write down 5 things you think are stopping you from creating a spin-out that will produce revenue in the next 5 years. In fact, I'm going to share my screen so you can see that. Right? Write down 5 things. Spend a couple of minutes. Of course, I'm going to ask you all what you've written down. So let's see what comes out. While we're doing that, a very warm welcome to a few people that have just come in. Lovely. Benazir is here. Abe is here. Lovely. Myra is here. Lovely to see you. Kasimbek,
Есть
good to see
перевод на
you.
русском языке?
Нет, язык вебинара английский. Мы можем вам в конце вкратце сделать summary на русском.
Окей, спасибо. Голоса не слышно?
Good stuff. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's see how we're doing. So can I ask you now you've done some thinking, now you've written it down, could you put your answers in the chat box? Could you just write what you've written, type what you've written in the chat box of Zoom? Let's see what people are thinking.
Sorry, didn't catch you.
So I've got it on the screen as well. So could you put what you've written that are the barriers to spinning a company out? Could you put the answers you've written in the chat box, the Zoom chat box? Let's see what everybody thinks the barriers are.
What is it?
Zoom chat. If you look at your Zoom, there should be a
yeah.
bar with the chat thing.
In chat.
Yeah.
Wow. Too much work. Sorry.
Welcome to one of my webinars. It's not radio.
Okay.
Bless. If you've got some, if you're able again to put it in English, that'd be fantastic, guys, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to read it. Let's give people a couple of minutes to do that. And if people are struggling with the chat, I'll start asking people anyway. So let's see what people come up with. Resources. Time.
I have started. I haven't finished it yet.
No, good. That's fine. That's all good. Let's start getting the perfection is the enemy of good. This is absolutely great. Start popping them in. Let's see what we can. Let's see what we see, because that's an important one. Resources like time are important. We'll talk about that. I assume money as well. You're talking about, Anada, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There are ways of doing that.
Sorry, Neil. Hello.
Hey, Kenneth.
Yeah. Sorry, I joined recently. I missed the beginning. So
That's okay.
we have to type in the main barriers to spin out the company or establishing the company.
Yes, indeed. So there's the question
Okay.
on the screen share, and we're asking you to put it into chat now.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So that's the question. I'll leave the question up. So see if you can get the answers to that question in chat. Ooh, lack of money and experience. Yeah. Not having a competitive team. That's interesting. Thank you. No support from university and not having big wishes. Ambition. Oh, nice. Like it. Skills and knowledge and experience. Yes, I think that's interesting. All of this is very normal, guys, by the way, not just in Kazakhstan, as I'm sure you know. What else have we got? Don't worry about writing essays. Just a couple of words is fine. Ooh, knowledge. Okay. And special experts to support you, financing and confidence. And I guess I can imagine when you don't think you've got the knowledge or the financing, it's going to knock your confidence. Courage. Oh,
Yes, it's from my side.
love it. Courage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when it's something new, right? If it's something new, it's a little bit scary. So fair enough. Lack of understanding of university, lack of a legal basis. That's an interesting one. I had a very interesting conversation with Korkutata University a few months ago. I was down by the Aral Sea. And the legal basis came up a lot there about how we do it, how you think about intellectual property, for example. Lack of professionals, okie doke. Yep. Similar again, the knowledge, the understanding, the skills, delayed funding, bureaucracy. Yep. The whole world suffers from that. Lack of business building skills. That's really interesting. Okay. Because we're talking about universities, and universities are staffed by academics. They're not staffed by business people. So of course, and lack of financial resources again. So money's coming up a lot, skills are coming up a lot. Really interesting. What else have we got? Give it another minute or two for people to go in. Like Myra, I don't know if you've put anything in there, or Dinara, Vladimir, team. Yeah, as in having a team to work with, Anara, is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
A team that has one vision, maybe direction to go.
Ah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, you've got to decide which way you're going together before you can get there. Otherwise, you're all pulling in different directions. Lovely. All right, that's a nice little sample. All right, so I'm going to pick a few things out here. Let me think. What are we going to deal with? So there's definitely something about money, getting money and getting financing. There's definitely something about skills that are coming up here. Skills and knowledge and experts. So that's interesting. Confidence and success. Okay, I'll tell you what, let's start somewhere. Let's start with, let's come off of this one for a second. Let's start with the skills. Let's start with skills. Start with the skills gap. Okay, so what have we got? Another exercise for you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, another exercise for you. So acknowledged we have a skills gap. We've got, and that's that's perfect. Lack of skills to promote business among potential customers, because you've got to sell as well. We'll come to that one as well. That's really important. Let's talk about a skills gap for a second. So you've got academics. You've got academics. Let's scale this challenge. So let me see. Maya, because you've just come in, I'm going to say hello to Maya. Hello, Maya, are you there? Is Maya there? Talk to me, Maya. Poor woman's probably thinking, oh my goodness, he wants to talk to me. Probably scaring the life out of her. No? No? All right, then let me ask someone who's on camera. Ah, Dinara, perfect. Great timing. Dinara, how much staff do you have at your university, roughly? How many staff? You're on mute, Dinara, so I can't. Oh, Maya, yes, you can. Sorry. Oh, Maya, you're in the library, so I'm now disturbing all the readers as well. Yes, go on, you can write in there as well. But Dinara, tell me, you're on mute as well. So come off mute. Tell me, how many staff do you have on your university, do you think? We lost her? She's frozen. Right, I'm going to... Oh, there she is. There she is. Dinara, tell me.
Oh,
Hello.
do you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
In our university, two of the head of the department and me. The office started working just from the last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on this office a few months.
Oh, well done you for coming in. But what about the whole size of the university? In the whole university, how many staff do you have, roughly?
Oh, there were almost 150 of the teachers, administrative staff. It's a big university, 15,000 students.
50. So you've got 150 administrative staff, academics, teachers, researchers. How many?
That's right.
How many academics and teachers?
150 almost.
For 50,000 students?
15,000 students.
15,000. Sorry, misheard you. Okay, so you've got a small staff, actually. It's quite a small staff for that amount of students. Interesting. So of that 150 members of staff, how many are researchers? How many research?
Oh, I am a few months only working here. That's
Okay,
why.
so all good. I'm sorry. All good. And it doesn't. I'm not looking for an exact answer, and I'm not going to mark you on the. You're not going to grade your paper either. So good. But thank you for playing with me. Much appreciated. Apologies for giving you a hard thing. So I'll tell you what, Maya, if you're in the library, do you reckon how many researchers do you have in your university? Any idea? If you can pop that in chat, or if anybody else can pop that in chat, how many researchers do you have in your universities? Any idea? 100, 1,000, 500, 300? Anyone know?
There can be 100 researchers.
100
but it
researchers.
doesn't matter. 100 researchers, I mean. So even though this is a small university,
Right.
but the problem is that those researchers cannot to be commercialized. This is the problem.
Cool.
Most of them.
So you've got 100. Maya's got 50 to 100. So we've got a sort of an idea of 100. So coming to your point, Talgat. Oh, and Maya also works with the Science Academy. That's interesting. So the problem is, Talgat, you've just said they don't know how to commercialize. So how many, Talgat, of your 100 have commercialized anything? What would you say?
So one or two of them can be commercialized.
One or two. Do any of the others run a business at the same time?
You mean researchers?
Imagine, are there any researchers that also, because sometimes it happens, also have a separate business of their own where they employ people? Anyone? Might happen.
Actually, no.
No.
In the South Kazakhstan, or maybe in the Chimkent and the South Kazakh University, the people do research and they do business, but this business is separate from research at all.
Yeah. Yes,
You know?
I understand. That's why I'm wondering.
Most of their attention actually to their own business, which can be a bakery or coffee shop, but nothing related to the researchers. Even though that researchers is a good chemistry professionals like that, you know. And the problem is how to encourage people to do research which can be commercialized, or how to indicate such research, and also do business with them. It is a separate skill, absolutely separate skill, and they need a lot of time and effort to do.
Indeed.
Am I right? I don't know.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. And this is, I'm trying to understand the scale here of the issue. So if we're talking about one or two that have commercialized and 98 that haven't, then you've got one or two people with the skill and very few and nobody else. So you've got a problem. 98 to 2. There's a problem. Okay. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to pop into chat anywhere. If you've got a skill problem, if you've got most of your researchers not having the skills, how could you solve it? What could you do? Pop some ideas in the chat for me. What do you think you could do? What are the ways you could solve that skill problem? Let's get the wisdom of these crowds working.
In that case, we should train.
Train, number one. Train. That's the first thing we can do. Train. What else could we do? We're going to talk about training. What else could we do?
Yeah. It's crucial for us because for Kazakhstan, we are young state, of course, and for our university, for our academics, the commercialization activity is new type human activities. We never do commercialization before. So, and therefore we need to train our people, our academics, to learn them how to do commercialization, how to open startup company, and so on.
So we got definitely got training. I agree with training. We'll talk about training next. What else could we do to help people?
Yeah, hello everyone. We can attach business person to every scientist and
Okay.
let them create the business together. Because
Absolutely.
I suppose scientists do not want to create businesses. They should understand basics of the business creation, but they're not supposed to create it and run it.
Exactly.
So that should be symbiosis.
And I recognize the diagram behind you on your screen as well. So you've done a bit of this already, Vladimir, right? You've done some
Yes.
of this thinking. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, exactly. So we can have, I'm going to call that a mentor or a partner. There's two ways you could do that. They could partner or they could mentor. Now, let me, Jane, is that? Have you got your hand up?
Yes, myself, yeah. So I think what we can do, we can involve more colleges, because for skills, we need more technicians. For example, what I'm trying to develop, I'm trying to work with colleges, specifically with Ushkanur College of Water Resources. I'm working water resources, and it's huge demand now in Central Asia, in Kazakhstan. We have a lot of problems with water resources, a lot of complexities, and at the same time, it creates opportunities. So one of the biggest problems in Kazakhstan, what we are working on, our Kazakhstan is targeted to produce hydrogen with $50 billion of investment, and we don't have technicians. And recently, yesterday, I met the Japanese who are very strong in hydrogen production. And what is interesting in Japan, they invest a lot on high school students. And high school students train technicians. So in our case, we don't train technicians in high school students. I mean, in colleges. So I'm actually now in Kyrgyzstan and met colleagues from Kyrgyz agro-technical colleges, and they have this project with Japanese colleagues. And I met 5 Japanese experts. It's interesting that they targeting to work also in this direction. And I hope to connect these colleges, Kyrgyz college and Kazakh college, and try to work on this issue, hydrogen technicians, irrigation technicians, and maybe to set up a small organization that will work on this exchange program between Japan and Kyrgyz college and Kazakh college. So this is strategy.
Whereabouts in Kyrgyzstan are you right now?
I'm in Bishkek.
You're in Bishkek.
But we have a field trip. Yeah, Bishkek, yeah. So it's agro-technical college, and so it's quite active because they have a lot of problems with water resources. And what surprised me is that college in Kyrgyzstan, they're very active in this cooperation. I was impressed by Japanese high school students. And high school, they train high school students. I think in Kazakhstan, we have difficulties with this issue, because mostly top-level researchers to work in these activities. But in Japan, they involve high school students. So it's grade 10, 11, 12, and they prepare technicians. So this is the main difference between our countries, that they prepare technicians from the high school. So I think it will be reasonable in Kazakhstan to work in this direction and to prepare more technicians. So when you have technical skills, on the next level is these technicians could be involved more in scientific work. When they have a good background, then start to use some equipment. So I think we're missing this. We have a gap, simply saying, in Kazakhstan. So this is the target. You see how
very interesting. Very interesting. So we've had the technical skills and involving the students and involving this. That's really interesting. We've had mentoring. We've had building relationships with business, and we've had the business skills, the entrepreneurship skills, people have said as well, how to commercialize a company and the training of that. So let's start looking at these for a second. I'm going to start with mentoring, if I can. So as you've said, as we've all said, if you're at a university, your people are teachers and they're researchers. So they're not expected to be business people. They're not expected to be entrepreneurs. And in fact, a business person and an entrepreneur are different as well. Because a business person running a large corporate business is a very different role and a very different job from starting a business, and a different skill set. If you go to business school, you're taught how to run a large company. You're not taught how to be an entrepreneur. It's different. So let's talk about mentoring for a minute, because we can then create relationships between the people that do know how to do it and the academics that you're talking about. So hold on, let's imagine I go out to a company somewhere in let's say Astana or Almaty, and I bring them in and I say to these guys from a bank or from a big company, I would like you to mentor some of my academics. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Has anybody tried it?
Firstly, they want the money.
Ah, one thing, they might want paying. Okay. Yeah.
Who
Okay.
will pay?
Possible. That's a culture thing. Go on, sorry. What's that? We have, they won't suit the system as well. That's interesting. What do you mean, Vladimir, by not suiting the system?
If I'm understood correctly, you will bring some magic people to our reality and tell them to do the magic.
Right.
And I suppose they have they do not know the background. They are not aware about the context, and I suppose they will fail.
It's really quite normal. When you think about the context of a business person, they are driven by monthly sales targets, monthly projects. An academic researcher works over a time period of years. There is a mismatch between how the world that a business person lives in and the world that an academic lives in. There's also a difference in language. They talk and think in different ways. Academics are deliberately very reflective. They think very deeply. They go over things again and again. They swap a lot of ideas. Business people are very fast and very practical because they have to solve the problem they have today. So it's a mismatch of mindset, a mismatch of skill set, and a mismatch of language. So it's not easy. It's not easy. So firstly, you can't just bring someone in. There has to be a mentor training piece. You have to train the mentors how to mentor. Mentoring is a skill. And secondly, there are different types of mentor. If someone's an entrepreneur, and if they're an academic, and you're asking them to start or be part of running a company, they are going to be under a lot of pressure. They have a day job, which is teaching and researching. They have a family, a normal life, and now you're asking them to start a company as well. A personal mentor supports the person. That's a very relational coaching type skill. It's a very emotional piece of support and guidance when someone is under a lot of pressure from different angles. It's an important piece. Then you've got an entrepreneurial mentor. So that person understands the entrepreneurship process. Entrepreneurship is a process. It's been worked out. It's been documented like any other process. You can follow a process and you can increase your chances by 100-fold of creating a company that works. Someone needs to understand that entrepreneurship process. It's a specialist role. It's not the same as being a finance director of a large company. It's very different. So in terms of mentoring, you also need an entrepreneurial mentor who understands the entrepreneurship process. It's based on things like lean project management that came out of the United States around the year 2000. The lean startup movement is based on design thinking. There are lots of different things it is based upon.
Hello.
Oh, hello, someone.
Алло, это Фарус.
There we go. And then there are technical mentors. Now, these are specialists. So if I'm starting a company, but actually I don't understand how to market on Instagram, I need someone who's a technical mentor to come and tell me how to do it. An hour or two I get of their time. I need someone, if I don't understand what to do with this, with how to record my finances, how to budget, I get a finance director or a member of the finance team from a big corporate to talk me through what I need to do for 2 hours. That's not a relationship. That's transactional. That's passing on knowledge. Short and sharp, simple. So you've got at least 3 types of mentor. One is a very deep personal relationship helping the person. One is an entrepreneurial guide. Both of those are long-term. Tactical mentor is somebody who pops in, talks to you for 1 or 2 hours, goes away again. You may never see them again, but they're helping you with a specific skill that you're looking for. And all these mentors need a specific set of training, except possibly the technical mentors, because they know their stuff. They're experts in something. That's why you're bringing them in. But a chief executive or a finance director or an HR director of a large company is not a good entrepreneurial mentor. Different skill set. Does that make sense? Any thoughts or questions on that, ladies and gentlemen?
I think absolutely understandable and great conception. Never thought about it, but in the practice, it's everything needed from the practice. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Targa. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the way as you work through some of these programs. And we've done global accelerators and worked with lots of universities around the world. And this is how it shakes out. It sort of makes sense when you think about it. Anybody else got a thought or a question, or shall I move on to the next bit?
Can I ask you?
Yes, please.
Does it mean that we should have 3 different type of mentors: personal, entrepreneurial, or technical? Or it means maybe we can find one person who will have 3 types these characters like this?
So good question. So often at the start, with new people, new companies, new people that are trying this out, the entrepreneurial mentor can double as a personal mentor because they're both quite relational. They're both focused on the individual. As a company grows, you tend to start splitting them out because it becomes a more specialist thing. So, for example, you will see in a lot of universities where you've got accelerators that students take part in. The personal and entrepreneurial mentor will be the same person. Because it's very early. The students are just playing at this. Not many students come out with great businesses. Sometimes 1 or 2 do, but not many do. But it does split out after a certain amount of time. When it starts to get serious, it does split out. Specialist mentor, by definition, it's going to be very lucky to get one person that understands the marketing and the finance and the international connections and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They are specialists. So universities have relationships with companies, and they just borrow someone for an hour or 2. They pull on them as part of their relationship with that company. Go on, Jenny.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, just short, small comments. Yeah. So I just was involved on several-day training program with Japanese experts who are instructors in high schools for high school students. What I'm impressed by their system, that they teach students, high school students, grade 10, 11, 12, to be creative, and they have special dedicated class which calls entrepreneurship for agricultural sector. So they teach students to produce something and sell on the market. So they teach students to work on marketing, business planning. So I mean, my point, in Kazakhstan, we develop all this stuff. We already when we matured, we already just big boys and big girls, just middle age people. But they started to do from this, high school system, and students are ready and they try to find niche. I think in our system, it will be reasonable somehow to start it earlier and provide all the skills, mentoring maybe earlier from high school, college system. And during our life, we'll be ready to work on all these activities, because all this technical skills training takes a lot of years and so on, but we miss some time. This is my point. Yeah, thank you.
Completely agree. And that brings me on nicely, because let's talk about the training for a minute. All right. So those skills you're talking about, there they are. This is from the World Economic Forum. And if you look at the top, and you were talking about entrepreneurship and creative thinking, the very most in demand, most growing skill in the world right now. And absolutely, you need that taught. I completely agree. It needs to be taught to every high school student. And it's not that hard, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. You can do a lot with that. You can see there, you've got curiosity, lifelong learning, resilience, systems thinking. A lot of this is about how you create new companies and have those skills. Because everything we teach our students now is out of date in 5 years' time. The half-life of an engineering degree is 3 years. By the time you finished your degree, half of what you learned in year one is out of date. So what they have to do is they have to have that basis, they have to have that knowledge, but they have to learn how to learn and learn how to solve problems creatively. So exactly right. I completely agree with you. Those skills are vital. However, what we can't do, ladies and gentlemen, is write ourselves off. We are still in the world, so we can't just give it to the kids. We've got to know it too. And here's a question for you. Let's imagine we just say, we are going to train all the academics in your university these skills. Does that mean they will all become entrepreneurs? Does that mean they will all commercialize their research? Who thinks they will? Who thinks if we train all their academics, they will all be commercialized? Anybody think yes?
I don't think all of the scientists can be entrepreneur. Most of them just scared, afraid from this kind of work, and they have a bad experience from previous life with this commercialization of their work. So what people I know, so they don't want to just to do something in this way.
Sorry.
So they can be trained. I think they should be trained in the way to understand, do their research have any perspective to be commercialized? So that is depends on what kind of research they do, fundamental or applied research. So if it's fundamental, it doesn't matter, absolutely for them. So should be university staff which can think about strategy of implementing of that fundamental research. Or if this researcher is doing some research which can be applied, it's also, they maybe can guess, but should be some professional who understand scientific point and the business point as well. That is my point.
I completely agree with you, Talgat. They're not there. So many people are scared. Why would they? They have signed up to be an academic, not a business person. But they do need to understand, and that's completely right. I totally agree with you. I will talk later about what we're doing in, let's see, University Malaya, for example, to exactly think that through and do what you're saying. Everybody needs to understand it. The fundamental research, yeah, I agree. Again, it's not going to be that applicable, but the applied research, absolutely. Totally agree. Go on, Yana, you've got a thought there.
Yeah, I agree that not everybody should be a businessman or should have this entrepreneurial stuff of activities. At the same time, skills, knowledge, I think it's very important to learn from the early childhood. And people may see which way he or she may go. And also it's very important for survival skills, because those companies are crashing, you know, permanently. One company survives, one company dies, and you have to survive. It's like creating a family. You have to keep your family and feed your children, and you need to know all this business planning and so on. So one of the biggest problems what we face quite often, all these financial activities, banks somehow separate, and quite often even farmers try to get money and they don't check business planning properly, and quite often they just try to get money and get money with big high credits here. So because they're not trained to get this money properly, and when you try to get equipment, for example, so it's a very expensive equipment, it's very hard to buy in cash. So it's it's important to buy it in long-term purchase. So I think all these skills are very important to now, and we should be trained as early as possible. This is the main idea. And later on, you may see if life you changed, you may create your own company, or you may continue for the big company, but big company may crash it. You have to do something else. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so, and all of those skills, I agree, we got to train them to begin with, and we've got to give ourselves those skills as well. So let's look about this. The thing is that just a training course won't do the job, because, as we've said, a lot of people don't want to, cannot as well as put on the text. They don't want to. They're academics. Some of them are scared. So, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. And it's called ADKAR. And this comes from Jeff Hyatt. He comes from the Prosky Corporation. He started the Prosky Corporation. This is a change management technique. Because if you are going to ask your academics, or some of them at least, to create spin-outs and commercialize research, and if you're going to ask all of them to at least understand how that works and think about their research in a way that means that someone can create company out of it, then it's not just training. ADKAR is about what someone needs to make a personal change and think in a different way. They need those 5 things. They need awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And if you start with the training, that's the knowledge and the ability. You've missed the first 2 steps out. People have got to want to, and they've got to understand why. Otherwise, they will go, oh, yes, that was a lovely training course. Thank you very much. And then go back to their life. And that is what will happen. So they've got to understand, what's the point? What's the reason? Why should I? They've got to want to. And then, and only then, are they ready to take the training. Right. Okay. So here's a question then. How could you create awareness? What could you do in a university to get people involved and think, yes, this is the right thing to do? You guys have all come onto a webinar here, 20 of us, 25 of us, interested in commercialization. How could you create awareness so that other people want to join you and think in this way? What could you do? Any ideas? It's not an easy one.
You mean among students or academicians?
Staff. I'm talking about staff. Yeah, because thank you, Anna. That's a really good question, because when we're talking about commercialization of research, we're talking about staff. Yeah. This is I'm going to be blunt, ladies and gentlemen, so forgive me. In 99% of the universities in the world, they make the mistake that they focus on students. There are very few Bill Gateses in the world. The average successful entrepreneur who starts a company is between 45 and 50 years old. Not a student, not a kid. The students don't have the networks, they don't have the experience, they don't have the social skills, the human skills that you develop by the time you hit middle age. It's very hard for them. If you want to commercialize research, you're going to be talking to the staff, not the students. Yes, we train the students, just as we were saying before. The students need the skills. They're there to learn. Yes. One or two of them may come up with something interesting. Yes. It will be a very small proportion. Your focus for commercialization needs to be the staff.
And I guess there should be a kind of systematic way of approaching this. And it
Absolutely.
depends on the university's vision, strategy, how, yeah, I guess it comes from top management, how they see and what they want to have in the end.
That's really important, Anna. The whole thing about top management is absolutely vital in any change in an organization. And we're talking about a change. Top management have to support it or nothing happens. Absolutely
Even
vital.
at the level of, even at the level of middle level
Yeah.
academic leadership, it is also the first level support.
Yep, absolutely right. So that political and authoritarian structure needs to be together as one, needs to align, which isn't easy yet. And we'll talk about how you can do that in a minute, but they absolutely need to align. Totally agree with you, Anna. Vladimir has got some ideas here as well in chat. So he's saying there's some social media, you can promote it. Absolutely. You can send notification emails once or twice a month. That's more the reinforcement, but it will also make people aware of the thing. So when we're talking about awareness, we're talking about understanding that there's something to do. There's a problem to solve. So part one is you've got to set the challenge. So for example, now who was it that was talking earlier? I think it was Yana who was saying, Yane, who was talking about the water problem. There's a water problem. We all know there's a water problem.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah, each problem creates opportunity. Yeah, so we have a lot of problems, but at the same time, it creates opportunity if we develop technology which will help to deal with this issue. So this one point, what I'm working now with emergency agency. So we have peak of floods, so it's early spring. So we have a lot of water. So when nobody needs this water, and at the same time we have droughts. So this is the main idea, what we are targeted to develop, to get this water, when we have a floods, and try to develop technology, how we'll collect it and use it to the drought system. So this is activities. At the same time, to build these dams and reservoirs are very expensive. So we have targeted to develop technologies similar to hydrogen production. So it will be in the, like nexus, water, food, energy. So and water will be in the category of energy. So in this case, transportation will be reasonable. You can just deliver from one point to another point, and output from hydrogen will be water. So in this case, it will be somehow a combination of needs of water and combination of energy. So, and in future, oil and gas will finish eventually. So this is the idea what we targeted to develop. This is the main idea.
So, let me stop you there, Yane, because that's interesting. And the way you're talking about it is you're obviously passionate, really passionate about it, right? You care. So Yane is someone who's awareness. He's got awareness. He understands there's a problem, and he also wants, he's got desire. So if you set a problem that's real, and we know, for example, that water is a real problem in many parts of the world, and we also know it's getting worse. And it's going to get worse. The moment you can't get water, you realize there's a problem and you want to solve it. So one way of creating awareness is, guys, you're doing great jobs as academics, but if you want your research to make an impact in the world and solve this real problem, this is how you do it. Come and help. Come inside. So one thing about creating awareness is you've got to set people the challenge, the problem. How are you going to make an impact in the world? Another way of creating awareness on top of that is comparing to other people. So if you say that, look, in Kazakhstan, we've got strong universities. We've got a lot of universities. We've got a lot of good academics. And by the way, I mean, when I was talking to colleagues back at King's College, some of them work with Kazakh colleagues. There's one guy I was talking to who worked in archaeology, who works with Kazakh colleagues, very well respected. You've got a strong university system. And other parts of the world take that research and they apply it. So what you can do is show people other people doing it, and that helps them feel like they can and that it can happen. That's another way you can do it. Set the challenge is one way. The getting senior management behind you is another way. Links between university and business, Yama. I agree with you. That's a great idea. Putting the social media up, putting the emails out. There is a marketing campaign around this to make it work. To get people behind you, right? And to get people to want to. And in fact, let me talk about this one as well for a minute. Desire. There's something called social proof. Some of you may be aware of. If anybody here has bought anything off of Amazon, you're probably looking at, or any other of the social media sites, the social shop sites, the Chinese ones, whatever it is, they usually have stars, recommendations. And one of the ways we judge is we look at what other people have recommended. It's normal human behavior because we can't do everything ourselves all the time. Social proof is really important. Look, they're doing it, so can you. So if someone like Yane is in your university and he's off and he's doing something in Kyrgyzstan, you can then talk about him in your university and say, look, we've got one. They've done it. So can you. That's why you have case studies. So that thing around desire and that thing around awareness, can we go back to here for a second, is really important before you hit the training. You've got to get people to want to. And by the way, don't train everybody all at once. If you train everybody all at once, 90% of the people going to the training won't want to be there. Find the 10% that want it, and it will be about 10%. Do it with them. Let them do something interesting. Tell everybody what interesting things they're doing. And the next year, another 20% will want to come. And then the next year, another 20% will want to come. And by the way, the last 20% will never come. And that's fine. You don't need them. But if you try and do it all at once, then all you get is 90% of the people going, yeah, that was nice, and never interested again because they think they've done it. So that, and exactly right, Yamat, and therefore what you do is you motivate them by example. So you take the first 10% that want to, show them as an example the next year, then the 20% come. And then the year after the 20% come. Yeah, Vladimir, of course. Actually, what I'm working off of here is I'll show it you in a minute. How are we doing for time? I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. Is the innovation adoption curve. Any innovation, human beings, the first 10% are innovators and early adopters. The next 10, 15%. The next 30% will follow when they see somebody else do it. The next 30% will follow when they see more than half the people do it. It's the majority. And the last 20% will never do it. That's what that's about. So let's go through that. The other thing is this then. You've got to create the environment. And this is what you're talking about because people have already been talking about it. We've said, as Yumat said, it links between industry and university. Absolutely. People talking about connecting with the young students. Bring them in. Bring in people who want to, and they will enthuse the others. Bring in the businesses so that you're surrounding people with positive reinforcement. They stand in the room and they look and they see that other people want to, and they feel they're at home. It's a very emotional process. It's not rational. It's emotional. It's being with the crowd. It's because we're social animals. If you tell people, just tell them to do something, yeah, they'll do it because you're the boss. They won't really do it in their heart. And they'll quietly not do it later. You've got to win their hearts and minds first, particularly more important, their hearts than anything else. So stuff like this. You guys were talking about it. Bring the businesses in, bring the students in, get the environment right for people. It's really important. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right. Now I've got a question for, guys, dive in if you've got a question on anything I'm talking about.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I have a similar strategy, for example, to prepare.
Oh, lost him again. We had a voice and then we lost it. Something's happened. Oh, well, someone agreed with me, which was nice. I think he's probably lost his signal. He'll come back. So we've got good photos. Help me understand your question. Where are you? Good photos? How can you run the production of baby food? Help me understand. What's the problem you're hitting?
Гульфарус есть здесь? К вам обращаются.
No? Okay, well, I'll tell you what, this might help because I'm going to move on to another bit now. All right, let's come off of there because this is interesting. Producing and selling your innovation. That's another one of the things that came up at the beginning. All right. So let's have a look at this because this I remember people talking about, and this might help you go for us. So we'll move on from that. Open baby food production in Kazakhstan. Right. So here's the thing. Think market, not product. It may seem strange, but making the production is the easy bit. Because you can control that. It is well known in the world how to make baby food. You can find partners, you can find guides, you can talk to people. There are plenty of people out there who know how to do that. The question is, who will buy it? We work with the Royal Academy of Engineering. We run the their global engineering accelerator called Leaders in Innovation Fellowships. And I'm going to give you some examples. How to know the technology of producing it. Okay. That is find people who do it already. Make partnerships. If you don't know the technology, then make partnerships with people who do. There are plenty of organizations that make baby food in the world. There are industrial designers. There are people that do this as a profession. So this is about understanding your role in this process. You don't do everything. You just do your bit and you bring people in as teams to do so. So it might be that you have people in the university who understand that. It might be there are companies from outside Kazakhstan that you want to talk to understand how to do that and ask them to build a partnership with you. There are lots of ways of doing it, but it's a thing that is known. And if it's a thing that is known, you can find it out. Reaching out outside of Kazakhstan may well be the way. If you're opening a baby food, and there's a finance piece here as well, to open a factory is a big thing. It's very expensive. It needs a lot of capital. So the other thing is you also will probably need business partners, manufacturing partners to help you do that. So you'll need partners anyway. So the partners you want are the partners that know how to produce whatever you have designed. So it's going to be about finding the right partner. But you've also got to think market or product. I want to give you a couple of examples of that. So this is Abdurrahman Habashni from Jordan. lovely guy. First met him in 2020. Abed realized there was a problem he's solving back in 2018. Abed, in 2018 in Jordan, there was a massive scandal because people died because their meat was there's bad meat going around the system and people died from food poisoning. Massive scandal. And they realized the problem was that they didn't have the ability, the cold chain didn't work, and they didn't have the ability to trace and track the food and where it came from. So there was a very clear customer problem. How do I trace this food? So Abed started to think about it. Abed, and we worked with him from 2020 to 2022. I last saw Abed about 6 months ago. We had dinner in London. Abed, from 2018 to 2022, built a company called Decapolis. His contribution was the process and the blockchain technology underneath that food tracing. He is now one of only 2 companies that are allowed to run food traceability in the United States and one of only 4 in the European Union. And he started from Jordan. He recently, about 9 months ago, Del Monte, massive global corporation, bought 40% of his company. As a result, Del Monte's shares went up. He's a unicorn. He's done incredibly well because he understood there was a customer problem to solve. It's not about the product he had. He started with the customer problem. That's really important. So, good for us. Starting with your baby food, my question to you would be, the hard bit is, what is the customer problem you're solving? What is the problem in Uzbekistan that means that people will want your baby food? You got to think that through, because that will change the packaging, the flavors, the types of food, the amounts of food, when you supply it, how you supply it, where you produce it. It will change all of those things. The technology of producing it is the easy bit. So your first thing about getting this stuff and selling it is understanding the customer problem you're solving. And for most academics, that's hard because most academics started with their research. Now they've got to go back and think again and think about it in terms of market. All right. Oh, Vladimir, what have you got here? Good. Good stuff. Well, you found a professional in the field. You're looking at him, but that's lovely, and that is also what you need to put your academic staff through when they've got an idea, because they need to think about the problem in the same way. Here's another one, right? Wahida, love Wahida. She's Malaysian engineer. And this is where it can go wrong, because Wahida created this wonderful piece of kit, bottom right-hand corner, wonderful piece of kit, much easier for telecom engineers to use. Great. The only problem is she didn't ask the telecoms company if they wanted it. It's not about the engineers. It's about the person in the telecoms company who buy it. They didn't want it because they didn't see that as a problem. The telecoms engineers had equipment. They can use it. They don't want something else. You've got to understand who the customer is and what their problem is. Wahida went back to the drawing board and started again completely. But she spent 3 years developing this before she asked a customer. You've got to ask the customer at the beginning, not the end. Here's another one, market and regulation. Now this, lovely lady, is Marzia. Marzia is an amazing human being. She is Iranian. She now lives in Brazil. She has 2 separate and different research-based PhDs. She's an amazing human being. Marzia is all about bamboo. And Marzia started saying, I've got this, I can make bamboo stronger than concrete, stronger than steel, because she can. I could do this with it, this with it, this with it, this with it. She got very excited. What she needed, and she was struggling. She go nowhere for 2 years. She stopped doing that. We were working with her for the last year. Now she just focuses on one product. And that's a building material for houses. And she's doing it in 3 different countries, no more than that. Because if it's building, regulations are different in every country, because nobody wants the roof falling on them. So it's a very heavily regulated market. So 3 countries, 1 product. And now she's selling. Because she fits in with the regulation of the country she's talking to. She understood the market. It's more important than the product. Here's another one. Sell where you can win. Angelica from Mexico. Wonderful professor. And she's created a bioherbicide, a really interesting bioherbicide. Now, you'll know, anybody here in farming or agriculture will know that there's a lot of pesticides that are very damaging to the environment. That's killing all the insects. We are developing a big ecological problem. She's developed a bioherbicide. She's not the only one. There's plenty out there that will do the job instead and not hurt the environment. And the market for those sorts of herbicides is growing. It's a large market. It's also a very, very competitive market. And the companies like Bayer, who have the old harmful pesticides, are fighting very hard. So where is she focused right now? She's focused in Mexico, because Mexico have just brought in a law banning those harmful pesticides. So Mexico is a country she can win. So understanding the market, where it is, what the regulations are, where you can win, and what the problem is absolutely vital. And so, guys, if you want your academics to be able to understand how to commercialize their technologies, they've got to start with them thinking about the market. Then they can sell it, but only then they can sell it. Does that make sense? And by the way, all these people, we've started with the whole, how do I commercialize something in 3 years? Angelica, 2 years. Marzia, 3 years. Abed started selling after 3 years. From scratch, from the starting point. So you can. You absolutely can. Any thoughts or questions, guys, on that? Anything at all? It's all very quiet out there all of a sudden because I started talking too much. Let's go off there. Let's go off there. I've spoken a lot. I've covered 2 topics. There's a lot more we could talk about, but we've only got a certain amount of time. We've got about 15 minutes left. Is there anything any of you want to ask me about? Anything anybody wants to know? Contacts.
Everything is clear.
Yeah. Everything's clear? Okay. If everything's clear, I'm going to scare you. Bear with me. Because if everything is clear, here we go. I've just done 2 topics. Let's talk about what it takes to do this. Yes, I'll give you Vladimir, don't worry. Right. Okay, here we go. Let's do this one then. If everything's clear, this, ladies and gentlemen, is what it's going to take to get more people involved. Firstly, to make more companies and more spin-outs, out of one end, you've got to put more in at the other. So Vladimir, for example, you creating an incubator, that's great. How do you get a lot of people in at the front end? So it's a big issue in most universities. They say, here's my university, and I'm going to stick an incubator on the side of it and on the end. So, for example, I can tell you that in Exeter University over the last 3 years, that's a pretty high level university, top 10 university in the UK. 30,000 students or more, 40,000 students. About 500 have used the incubator in the last 3 years. It's a tiny proportion. The impact is tiny. And that's a successful university. To get more commercialization coming out the end, you need more going in. Coming back to who was talking about it, I think it was Talgat was talking about every academic understanding with their applied research what the impact is, what the commercialization could be. That's how you do it. So you've got to involve everybody. Yep. You've got to get everybody involved. And was it you, Talgat, who was talking about everybody understanding?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. You got to get everybody involved. The more people you get involved in one end, the more comes out the other. It's as simple as that. It's a pipeline. So that's the first challenge. Get more people involved. Hold on a minute, though. We've got a problem. There's no pathway. Academics have two pathways normally. They have teaching and they have research and publishing. Research and publish is a problem because if you research and you publish, you're publishing your research, and all of a sudden nobody's interested in you anymore because they can just take your research and use it. Investors are not interested because they're interested in intellectual property. So you need a different career pathway through university to be able to build that pipeline. And there are ways of doing that. I'm not telling you things you can't do. You can do it, but you've got to think through what the processes are within your university that supports. Right now, teaching, research, and publish stop you building commercial companies. You've got to think about how you build a process that builds a company. Then you've got to involve the ecosystem. You've got to get the businesses involved. We've said we want to bring business people in. You've got to get the finance involved. You've got to get investment involved. You've got to get the teaching staff all involved. You've got to get the students involved. You've got to lead your ecosystem. It takes a wee while, and there's a process around it. So while you're grabbing your early adopters, your 10%, your people that have some research that they want to commercialize and working with them, you need to build the structures that support everybody else doing it. Otherwise, you'll finish your early adopters and then stop. And nothing will happen after that.
So we are talking about building ecosystem.
Yeah.
Within the university, we can make this process. So I'm talking about this ecosystem over the 5 or 10 years, I think, in the university. And nothing, you know. So I'm talking about this university ecosystem within several universities. So also nothing. And what I'm thinking about is the top management, if they don't understand this is part of the work, and if there is no requirement for university, especially for public university, which is financed by the government, so there is nothing happen. Even though you are so put many efforts and you unique person, blah blah blah, so nothing will happen if the first person in the university doesn't understand this kind of conception. Even ministry, I don't think they understand. They are talking about, but not understand. So
Absolutely. And I would expect that to be the case. So again, it's the adoption curve. Let me show you the adoption curve. I've got it here. Here we go. That's the adoption curve. So up here on the left-hand side, that's the amount of people or the amount of businesses that are going to be interested, or the amount of universities that are going to be interested. How many universities have you got in Kazakhstan? Any idea? I'm not sure. How many have you got?
127 like this.
127. So similar actually to the amount that we have. We've got about 130, 140 or something. So at 127, I would say there's going to be 3 that are going to want to do this to begin with. I know one of them, by the way. It's Korkatata, down by the Aral Sea. But there are going to be 3 that are going to be interested in doing something like this. And the way this sort of transformation works on a national level is that you've got to have 2 or 3 universities or even one start and show the way for the others. Then you'll start to get the early adopters coming in. So on a national level, again, it's a transformation process. And I've met a couple of times, your Minister for Higher Education. He does get it. Your new Minister for Higher Education does get it. He understands it. That's why you're seeing a lot of pushing right now. And he wants this to happen. He's a really interesting guy. And he very much is behind some of this transformation. So the pressure from above, from the ministry, is building and is going to build. So there is an opportunity. And that's what you've got things like the Science Fund. Because when you look at the Science Fund application forms, you'll see that there is a lot of within there are things like, well, what's your value proposition? Asking researchers to think about the impact they could have if it were commercialized. So that structure is starting to be built. But it won't be every university, and some universities never will. But you've got to start somewhere. You need 2 or 3 to do it. And for me, my question I'm trying to answer in Kazakhstan is, who are the 2 or 3 universities that are interested in doing it? Because then we can support them through. We've done this all over the world. We can help them do it and do it successfully and do it fast. So that's what I'm interested in. Because that's how you do it. But you've got to find the people that want to first. You've got to find the university that wants to first. And there's a simple model, by the way, in the end. And you'll notice that the blue boxes are the university and the red boxes are outside of the university, because it's about, as you were just saying, Target, there's an ecosystem here. And also, as I think Yano was talking about, there's a school system there as well, reaching back into the school system, getting all those students trained up as well. So you've got a whole pipeline coming through on a national level. There's a model and a way of doing it. And you'll have all this recorded, guys. You can look at this at your leisure, but there's a model and a way of doing it. But you've got to find the people that want to begin with. And just to give you an idea of how it can work, once you've got started, that's where we are in the UK. Once it starts, it builds.
This means 1,628.
Yeah, 1628 spin out since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And it's doing this. It's doing this. And it's happened here. So you'll notice that a quarter of them are in the 3 top universities. It's that find the first people that want to move, they start doing it, then people start going in behind. It's a transformation process, and it does take years, but you've got to find the people that want to first. You do it with them, they lead the way, others going after them. both in terms of individuals within your organizations and at a national level in terms of the organizations. So these guys in, this is, when was this? 6 months ago, 8 months ago? This is in Malaysia. Malaysia are not good at commercializing their innovations. They're very bad at it, frankly. There's maybe one university called Sunway that is private that does it. These guys are from University Malaya. And they're going through the transformation process. So what you'll see is we started with the staff. We started training some of them, the ones that were interested in how this works. They then train the students because that way they learn, because they're training other people. You know what happens when you train somebody else, you rethink it in your brain, and then you know it. Now, bottom right-hand corner, the woman at the front, she's the head of their technology transfer office. All new researchers are trained in thinking about exactly what you were saying. How do I rethink my applied research so that it has impact, so that it is commercializable? All of them get it now. And we're going and doing it with another university, UITM, University of Technology Mara. I will be there with a couple of colleagues in the end of August to start the work with them. Yeah, and in fact, actually, I'll show you. Hold on. Shaliza is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Innovation in that university you're seeing pictures of there. And Shaliza actually texted me something yesterday or the day before. Bear with me. Let me find Shaliza's text. All right, Shaliza. Professor Shaliza, where are you? Here we go. This was 2 days ago. There we are. There you go. There's my WhatsApp. You can see that that's live, unprompted, a couple of days ago, and it starts to spread. Because she's used it as a catalyst for the whole university. If you do it well and you market the results, it starts to move. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, because we're now on the last couple of minutes. And by the way, contact details, there you go, that's us. Wanted contact details, there you go. You can call me anytime you like. There you go. That phone number is WhatsApp and Telegram and everything you can imagine. In terms of, go on.
Thank you very much, Neil. Very interesting lecture, very interesting webinar for us. We share with us your ideas how we can create some of the spin-out company in Kazakh universities. So for me, very interesting last slide, last picture, when you show how many money was spent British government for 1,628 spin-out companies, which was created in 2011, yes?
Yep, that's right.
And that big money. So it's that that picture that it's supported my ideas that first of all, in Kazakhstan, we need to get government support.
Let me just check something here with you. So look, that's not government money.
This.
That's not government money.
Not government money.
No, that's private money. That is money invested in the companies that are spun out of the universities. So they've created a technology in the university with a customer problem in mind, with a market in mind, and companies have come in and invested that money in those companies. This is a net money maker, not a net money spender. Yeah. This is people bringing money to put into those companies to build them, buying shares in those companies.
Okay. In that case, do you have any information about how many supporting from government they have?
That's just part. So there are different systems in the UK, not dissimilar to yours. There are, firstly, the universities get funding mainly from student fees. But we also have, similar to your Science Council, we have UKRI, UK Research and Innovation. And UKRI support and fund a lot of the research in the UK. Thanks, Carla. Yes, apologies for running over. The support and fund a lot of the research in the UK. So there is money going in through UKRI. I don't have the number in my head. It is a big number.
Okay. But according to your opinion, what do you think if you will compare the private funding and government funding for supporting commercialization processes in the UK? What is the bigger, private money or?
So by definition, commercialization is getting private money. Otherwise, it's just research. So what the UK government will fund is research. And that's a whole different ball game. And they're also everything fundamental research for everything, right? The UK government don't invest in commercializing companies.
Okay.
They leave that to the private sector. So you've got a separate thing funding research. I mean, I could look up UKRI. Let's find out. UKRI annual budget. Let's find out. UKRI, but this is for everything, right? UKRI annual budget, 6 billion a year. There you go.
Okay. In any case, it's
a big number. It's a big number.
Big money, yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, yeah, my pleasure. But that's all research, right? That's all research.
Good figures. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Well, look, if anybody's got any questions, anything they want to ask me about, yeah, then do get in touch. My contact details are there in chat. Very happy to talk to anybody about anything.
It was a pleasure to talk to you, Mayo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciate your attendance and much appreciate your time.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.